How can you go wrong making homemade kombucha with all these flavors?
Oh! I was not expecting that.
Welcome back to the Fermentation Adventure. Today we are making kombucha. This is a probiotic-rich fermented tea.
And instead of buying these kombuchas at the store, where it can become quite expensive, this is something you can make at home. You can make unique flavors of all kinds, whatever your imagination is. It will save you quite a bit of money, and it's actually super easy. So let's get started.
Join us on this journey to explore the world of fermentation.
If you'd like to learn how to make ferments like these, start now by clicking subscribe and hitting that bell so you don't miss a thing.
Oh boy. So to make kombucha, what you need is called a Scoby. This is also called a mother. So the Scoby is actually the kombucha starter culture, and it's alive. The Scoby stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. Now you can either make your own Scoby like we've done in a past video, or you can buy one online or even get one from a friend.
And we will go ahead and include the links to our video where we made the Scoby from scratch in the video description below. Plus, we'll include the links where we recommend to buy it online if you're going to buy a Scoby.
We just so happen to have a selection of Scobies in our Scoby hotel, which we'll be picking one of those out later. So since we're making a fermented tea drink, first what we'll need is some sweet tea.
Oh yeah, and we're going to be making 2 quarts or a half gallon of our kombucha today. Woo, looking forward to that. And next step is to make the sweet tea, which we're going to use the same process, if you remember from our last video, of making the Scoby from scratch. So let's bring 7 cups of non-chlorinated water to a boil. You can use 1 tablespoon of loose leaf tea, or you can use about 4 tea bags. Now we're going to let the tea steep for about 15 minutes. All your equipment should be sanitized. We're going to use a half cup of raw cane sugar. You can actually use a variety of other sugars, but make sure that you stay away from the artificial sweetener type. And of course, we're going to give it a stir to make sure it's dissolved.
To cool this down even faster, what we're going to do is put this into an ice bath. It'll cool this down super fast. Now this is a very important step to cool this to room temperature because you don't want to destroy the starter culture because it's alive. Now the first thing we're going to do is take some of our starter tea and add it to the fresh brewed tea. So when we add the Scoby later, it's not a shock and we're stirring the Scoby with the tea and we don't want to disturb it.
And there are 3 sources that you can pretty much get your starter tea from. This could come from the original tea that you grew your Scoby in. This could come from another finished kombucha that you happen to have around. Or it can come from your Scoby hotel, which we're going to use today. There is a little Scoby on there.
A baby Scoby. It's maybe like a millimeter thick.
Well, I think I'm just going to push this back into our Scoby hotel.
Yeah, all we want from this jar is the starter tea. We're going to be using 1 cup of our mature starter tea.
Now we got to give it a quick stir. Let's get that tea all in there.
You might even be wondering, why would you even need a Scoby? Technically, as long as you have mature tea and you have fresh brewed sweet tea, you can make kombucha by itself. But it's going to take a lot longer and there's no guarantee that's going to work. Whereas a Scoby, it's mature, it's alive, and it's pretty strong. So once you put that in there, it gives it a much better chance of actually working, and it actually makes it a lot faster.
Now you could reach in and grab one of these Scobies with your hands, but they're a little bit slippery and you'd have to make sure to clean your hands thoroughly. You don't want to contaminate it with chlorinated water either.
Many times it's actually sunk to the bottom. You'd have to dip your entire arm down in there to get it.
Exactly, so we have little tongs.
Now we're ready to pick out one of our mature Scobies from the Scoby hotel.
Find a good, nice, thick one to put it into our new batch of tea. We're just gonna gently drop it in there, and it might float or it might sink, and either one is just fine.
The last step before fermenting is to cover the jar. Now kombucha is an aerobic ferment, which means it's exposed to the air and normally there's a little bit more of a vinegar taste. We're going to want to use something that's a tight knit. If you use a cheesecloth, it's possible you might get bugs in there.
So at this point, we're ready to ferment this tea and turn it into kombucha. Let it ferment on the counter at room temperature, out of direct sunlight, and it will take about a week. But we're gonna follow this during the fermentation process so you guys know what to expect when you're creating your kombucha at home. And don't forget to put a sticker on there with the date so you don't forget when you started your kombucha.
After only 24 hours, we're starting to see a good sign. There's a few bubbles forming along the rim. After 2 days, the top is starting to gel together and trying to form another Scoby. This is a sign that the kombucha culture is taking over. On the 3rd day, we really see the Scoby forming. Since we use mature starter liquid from our Scoby hotel, the fermentation process is happening quickly. By the 5th day, the new kombucha Scoby is getting thick, and there's even a floating Scoby tentacle underneath the top layer. It looks pretty cool. After 6 days, our new kombucha Scoby solidified even more. After a full week, the gases from the fermentation process are pushing the Scoby above the liquid. After another day, the Scoby fell back down, but we could have pushed it back down to keep it in the liquid. Welcome back. Our tea has been fermenting for 10 days in primary fermentation.
Wow, there is already a Scoby.
So how do we know that this kombucha has actually worked? Well, we have a lot of good signs here. I mean, the color has gotten a little bit lighter, cloudiness to it, like you would expect with a ferment. And definitely the bubbles. It's actually pushing the Scoby up to the top. The big sign would be there's no mold, and then also just give it a smell.
Whoa,
Ooh,
burn your nose
Yeah,
hairs.
it actually burns my nose a little bit. Smells good though, it smells like vinegar. Don't forget, the longer that you ferment, the less sugar that there's gonna be, but more vinegar.
If you were ready to make another kombucha immediately, you'd use this right away to start another batch. A little bit of starter liquid from here and your Scoby, but we're just gonna store it in our Scoby hotel. Now on to a taste test.
Ooh, this is gonna be good. We love using these leak-proof tops that have an easy pour spout on it.
Hey guys, we'd love for you to join us as patrons on Patreon to help support our work in creating videos for you. And we look forward to connecting with you on Patreon.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
That's really good.
It's really light, and I'm sure it's because it's been, 10 days of fermentation, so it's not very sweet anymore. It's just light. Ah.
Oh, I definitely taste the vinegar. Oh, delicious.
So actually, if you like the taste of the kombucha at this point, you're basically set. You can just take the top, maybe let it a little bit loose, stick it in the refrigerator, and just enjoy.
Yeah, or you can move on to the next step, which is secondary fermentation.
That's where we can add all the great flavors and make so many different kinds of combination with natural fruit, with herbs, with spices, with roots. Oh my gosh, endless combinations. We could actually ferment directly in this jar.
We definitely could, but you'll notice we've already removed the Scoby because you don't want to mix your Scoby with any kind of fruit or fruit juice. We want to keep that as healthy as possible.
Even if you're going to use some of the starter liquid from this jar, you want to take that out right now before you add any fruit or juice to it. But the other part about secondary fermentation is we can add carbonation.
Yes.
If you want that fizz and bubbly goodness of kombucha, we're going to do that by fermenting in pressure-safe bottles that'll allow that carbonation to build up.
You definitely don't want to do it in a mason jar. That's not built for pressure. Our half-gallon recipe is going to make anywhere between 3 and 4 of these bottles. Now, it's very important to find bottles that are pressure-safe. Now these are used for making beer and making soda and anything that's going to develop a lot of carbonation. You can buy store-bought kombucha and just remove the labels like we do. And these are built for pressure, which is really nice.
But no matter what, even if it says pressure safe, always be super careful about using these glass bottles. They really could become glass bombs, and we don't want that for you guys. So you could use a plastic tester bottle so you can squeeze it and figure out just how much pressure is building inside. Or you could also burp these and release the pressure every so often just to see how quickly it might be building inside.
So if you're adding fruit, you have to be very careful with any kind of fresh fruit. You might want to burp it every 12 hours. This is where the fun part begins.
Today we're going to share a few recipes, which are pineapple jalapeno,
Jalapeno.
mango mint,
Nice.
and lemon ginger.
And we also have this brown bottle here because we're going to make a plain kombucha that we're just going to carbonate. Because we like the flavor, but we also like the carbonation. First, we need a pineapple.
Ooh.
You can also use frozen pineapple. Oh man, it looks like we have a bad pineapple, but it's a good thing we have another one. Thank you very much. Hopefully we get luckier with this one.
And don't throw these scraps away. You can use this to make a fermented pineapple drink called tepache.
Thinly slice or chop the pineapple, as long as it's small enough to fit into the opening of the bottle.
Next, we'll need a little bit of jalapeno. We like to get it when it's in season and just put them in the freezer.
This is going to add a kick and some pretty interesting flavors. We're going to be chopping these into little pieces, just enough so they fit into the bottle.
Next, we need a little mango.
Again, thinly sliced or chopped. Frozen mango would also work. Let's get some chopped fresh ginger. We recently dug up our homegrown ginger and it was a very exciting day. This is a giant piece of ginger. We're gonna see if it all comes out in one. Whoa. I think I got it, mostly. Oh, look at that. That's all ginger. Ginger. Let's also squeeze a little lemon juice and set that aside. We'll also need mint leaves, so let's go to the garden. More like it started spreading in our grass. No worries though, it smells great when we cut the lawn.
For each recipe, we're going to put the ingredients directly in the bottle. We're making the pineapple jalapeno kombucha. So we're going to be using 1/4 cup of fresh or frozen pineapple and also 2 to 3 round slices of jalapeno.
Moving on to the next recipe, we're using 1/4 a cup of fresh mango and 5 mint leaves.
Now for the mint leaves, I like to crush them up a little bit.
So for our last flavored kombucha recipe for today, we are making lemon ginger. So we are adding the juice of half of a lemon, which is about 1/4 a cup of fresh juice, and 1 teaspoon of fresh ginger root.
Since we didn't actually add any fruit with some really high sugar content, we really want to add a little bit of sugar to jumpstart the fermentation process. So we're going to add about half a teaspoon of sugar to this batch.
One tip with adding fresh fruit, you can actually puree this in your blender and pour it in. It'll just make the kombucha a little bit thicker. Oh, who is that? You want some kombucha? So like I was saying, with fresh fruit, you can puree it in the blender, but then it'll make the kombucha a little bit thicker unless you strain it first.
And we're going to fill each jar right about to the neckline. So we're going to leave about 1 or 2 inches of headspace, which is the air.
This will just keep the jars from possibly exploding. You're giving a little bit of room for error.
In our last bottle, it's going to be our plain. So we don't have any fruit or any additional sugar, just plain kombucha carbonated. The strainer helped catch just a little bit of the Scoby particles. These bottles look amazing.
They really do.
Now we're ready for secondary fermentation. I'm gonna go ahead and cap these because in order to build carbonation, we actually want these to be closed.
We are going to follow these bottles all along the secondary fermentation process so you know what to expect when you're bottling your kombucha. It's been 24 hours. They're looking a little bubbly, so let's open one and see just how carbonated these really are. Oh, it's only a little bit. I think we can leave these for another 24 hours and we'll check it out.
Wow. So guys, it's been 2 full days that these have been fermenting. You can also see some of the bubbles starting to appear on the top. So it's definitely more carbonated, which makes me think that this one has been fermenting a little bit faster. It might have been sweeter. I think we better burp it and make sure that it's not too much carbonation building. Wish me luck. Oh! I was not expecting that. But that makes me think maybe we need to pop this one a little bit too. Release a little bit of pressure just in case the mango had more carbonation than we thought. Whoa! And we're gonna do this one too now that we're at it. Wow! What? Oh my goodness. Well, that's it then. I would say they are ready to go. We're gonna put them in the refrigerator and let them calm down a little bit.
I don't know which flavor I'm gonna like the best, but they all look really good.
I think we need to start with a probably smoother, lighter flavor first and work up to the jalapeno.
Okay, here we go. Oh, here it comes, here it comes. Oh, that looks good.
Lemon ginger.
To kombucha. Ooh.
Wow.
Delicious.
Really smooth.
Oh, that is refreshing. I can definitely picture this in the summertime.
I think it's my favorite so far.
And the grand finale, we have pineapple jalapeno.
I'm so glad we saved this for last. I cannot wait to see what the jalapeno tastes like.
Oh boy. Whoa. We might have to let that calm down just a tiny bit. Oh, it smells good though. I think this one is probably the most active because we have pineapple in there and that is super sweet. I don't know if you remember from tepache, that stuff ferments really quickly.
Oh my gosh.
It smells a little spicy.
It smells spicy. This one is really good.
You know what's funny though? I actually don't taste the spiciness. I think you'd have to put a lot more jalapenos for the capsaicin to come through. How can you go wrong making homemade kombucha with all these flavors? And like we said, you can experiment with anything that you have in the refrigerator. I mean, you never know what's going to be a great flavor.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and also thanks to each one of you for subscribing and being part of our adventure.
If you found this video helpful, it would be so awesome if you click the like button, share this with a friend, and checked out any of our other videos. And we love hearing from you guys, so let us know how your kombucha is going. We will see you on the next adventure.
Bye! Till next time!
I bet there's a spider in there.
Did you get the spider?
It almost looks like an alien spider thing.
Well, there are spiders.
Oh yeah,
Is
true.
that on your finger? Bless your finger. Oh, God.